All right. Sorry. 1 minute and 25 seconds late. I apologize. I'm sure there's no one watching anyway, but I must keep pretending that there is. Welcome. This is Premarket Wake Up with no more paper. My goal is to become a profitable trader. I sell nothing. No signals, no memberships, no mentorships. I have no affiliate links. I push no products that I don't use myself. And I never will. I just want to become a profitable trader through the help of building a community. By the way, link is in the description for the Discord community. I do have plans of building a website at some point. And I also have plans of advertising a little bit more to get more people involved. How I plan to do that is with no money, of course, because I have no money. But I will post on TradingView and hope that others see the posts and want to join a community that's not going to push them on some Bitcoin scam or something. All right, anyway, let's get going. As I go live, ADP just came out. That came way lower than predictions, which somehow, according to FX Street, here, let's take a look. Vigorous growth in employment figures increases inflationary pressures. I'm not sure exactly how that happens. Perhaps one day I'll learn. But you would think a low number would come in good for the markets, meaning inflation isn't as bad as they think it is, so they can cut. But I don't know. Maybe if it's this bad, no good can come of it. What also just released right now, ADP was at 815. What released right now was initial jobless claims, non-farm productivity, and unit labor costs. So what's strange here is initial jobless claims came in higher than the consensus and higher than last time. So, kind of bad for the country, but again, according to FX Street, good for inflation. Let's see if they say the same thing here. The downtrend is seen as a sign of an improving labor market. So I also think, around this time of year, companies aren't looking to hire a lot. A lot of executives and employees are on vacation or looking to go on vacation. So why would you do a massive round of hiring when business is not only slow, but your entire HR department is on vacation, or half of it? So that could make sense. It could also be because of the tariffs. I don't know. I wonder if there's a way to look back a year, exactly a year, to see how it was. So this is considered is this weekly? Oh, 4-week. No. So this is every Thursday. Investors pay more closer attention to the 4-week average, which is also up. But then if they pay more attention, why isn't this a brighter color? If you don't know, the brighter the color, the more effect it'll have on the markets. Well, because this is FX straight, the more effect it'll have on money. But I don't trade that. I trade futures. But still, this is a great calendar. Yeah, I still want to try and find... I can't stop yawning. I don't know why this happens. I still want to try and find last year's to see if there is a trend during the summer for it to rise. U.S. Department of Labor. Hey, look at that. The other day I tried this and it wouldn't show anything but the page, the other page. Now it shows the entire browser for whatever reason. United States Department of Labor. Is it the BLS? Yeah, let's just do a search, see what happens. Initial jobless claims. I know, I'm wasting time. I meant to do a really quick one today. But this is how it goes sometimes. I do plan to go over the overnight price moves in the ES, the NQ, the Russell, the Dow, gold, and oil. And then look at key levels as well. So this is just where I'm stuck right now. So if there is anyone listening, I'm sorry. Nope, no good. Let's try the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Maybe it's on Fred. I don't know. If you don't know, Fred is... I don't know what it stands for, but it's a lot of government data graphs and whatnot. I used to look at it all the time, but you only have time for so much things. I'd rather spend time trading and looking at charts. Maybe one day I'll become more of a fundamental trader, but for now I'm keeping it simple. Latest numbers, payroll, employment. Let's see if these numbers match. So we had initial jobless claims at 237. Yeah, I don't know. Ah, there we go. Consumer Price Index. Would that be considered employment situation? Probably. Friday, August 1st. Well, this doesn't seem recent. This is too much right now, I guess. Should I ask AI? I really don't trust any of their answers. But why not? Everything I look up with AI. Trust but verify. It's getting worse too. I'm sure if you use it, you've noticed. How do I ask this question? Is there a trend for initial jobless claims to rise during the summer every year? To clarify, I mean report issued by U.S. Department of Labor. So according to AI, yes, there is a recurring seasonal uptick in summer jobless claims. It's recognized by economists. Yeah, but those adjustments are accounted for in the predictions, I guess. Okay. Again, I don't trust the AI. It tends to just agree. Which is pretty scary for stocks in general, because at some point they're going to realize AI isn't as great as the market seems to think it is. And if there's no new narrative to take over profits, I see a major correction. All right, moving on. We also had non-farm productivity. Let's see what that is about. Output of hour per hour of labor worked. The overall business health of the U.S. High reading is positive, low reading is negative for the U.S. dollar. So they're squeezing them more. And unit labor costs. So that came in lower. I would assume that's good for business. They're getting more for less. That could be construed that way, but I don't really know. All right, coming up, I'll go over the coming up news later. Let's move to the overnight. Just give me one sec while I hide some drawings. All right, ES. Around 3:30 yesterday afternoon, there was a large spike in price. I didn't take a look at it. You know what? I just traded. Did I place any trades last night? No, I didn't. I wonder what that was. There was no news released yesterday. Fed's beige book was at 2. So I don't know what could have done that. Good earnings, maybe. Dollar Tree was yesterday morning. Maybe Salesforce? I don't know. Usually they wait till after the close. Either way, you see an increase here, and then an increase in the overnight after. The overnight opened right around the close. Bounced off of yesterday's opening range high twice, pretty cleanly. That would have been a great trade. Rose quite sharply, right at 8. I gotta remember too when the overseas markets open. Sometimes in the overnight you'll see a huge increase in volume or volatility at a certain time because of other markets opening in the world. And then other times you don't. You see nothing. Very muted. I used to try and mark down those times and avoid trading around those times. But there really is no point because the amount of times it happens is maybe 1 in 4. And if you have a good trading strategy, it doesn't matter, this increase. Probably would have helped you because it was pretty clear here that price was not going to go any lower. I think I did watch this price action and you could tell sellers weren't not in control. Anyway, you had price rise to previous month's close at 64.72. Almost hit it directly before rejecting it. Hit it another time and another time. So yesterday I made a prediction. I made a post on TradingView, just in the chat. I still don't know the difference between, I'm terrible with social media. I don't understand what a tweet is. I don't understand. I mean, I understand what a tweet is, but I don't know why you would do it. And I don't know the posts, the chats. So they have posts, they have chats, they have another type of thing on TradingView. Speak your mind, publish idea, but then you could also post something to somewhere else. I don't know what's seen by who and who. It's dumb. It's kind of dumb. I might grow to like it, but right now I think it's dumb. Anyway, I made a post yesterday morning before the open that possible short at previous month's close. But during the day, price never got there. But it did get there in the overnight, as you could see. So you're wondering, did I trade it? No. No, I completely missed it. Which happens. I usually go to bed pretty early, so I missed the 10 o'clock hit. And then I was up at 6, but I was working on other things. I did notice at 7:15, but by the time I connected my broker, which TradingView chooses to have problems with that sometimes, at random times, always at the time you need to enter a trade, this candle was already closing lower. So I didn't bother entering the trade. The solution, the lesson I should learn, create alarms. I used to do that, but I figured I would just actively trade as often as possible, looking at the charts as often as possible. Maybe I should have just entered a limit order for some quick profit. But the downside to that is there are times I've forgotten. I put a limit order. And then I also forget to cancel it or to have it automatically cancel. Which I kind of forget that too. Does I know that the different types of orders cancel at different times, or at least I assume they do. GTC, I would assume that would stay for a very long time. And I would assume that a day order would stop at the futures close. Or does it stop at the 4 o'clock close? Or the 4:15 settlement? That's the thing I don't know. But I have in the past forgotten about an order and then wondered why a couple days later, what's this position I'm in? So there's always that. But I should have done something. Anyway, now we're coming up on yesterday's high. We're stuck right here. The news didn't have a huge effect. Maybe at the open you'll see something from that. But there's a lot more news coming out today. It's a mess. I won't be trading much today. The overnight I'll trade, or maybe this afternoon. No, I can't this afternoon. I'll trade tonight. Maybe till around 11 this morning. I'll just observe. All right, moving on. M and Q. Similar structure to the ES, but different key levels. M and Q almost ignoring previous month's close as far as a major resistance or a major stopping area. It did bounce off it several times. So for the ES, previous month's close acted as the upper limit for the overnight, whereas the NQ, which I trade the M and Q, the NQ, it was yesterday's high that acted as the upper limit. But you can see the back and forth here. Rejected yesterday's high twice, but didn't get far. All right, Russell. Probably a similar structure. So I did notice, so every morning I record all the stocks that had an all-time high for the Russell. I do that because there's a strategy I started developing and I never finished it. I still want to work on it more, but it's based around following the leaders in any of the indices. So for the Russell, that would mean following stocks that reach all-time highs very often, and start doing that below 20 PE level, meaning there's a lot of room for them to grow. So anyway, this morning I recorded yesterday's all-time highs, and it did seem like the Russell, there's still quite a few companies making all-time highs, despite yesterday being pretty poor. So just something to note. I'm not saying that, well, I am kind of hinting at, I don't see us going further down, at least below, what was that, Tuesday's low. I don't see us going down there, at least anytime soon. Of course, any news release could change that. Powell could walk back his earlier comments, and the market could crash. You don't know. Anyway, the Russell in the overnight. The upper level, as you can see, it bounced very cleanly, just like the ES and the NQ. But I don't have that level marked. That would be Friday's low. So bounced off of Friday's low several times. Now it looks like it's coming up. Try again. All right, moving on to the Dow. A bit of an outlier here. Well, it seems like the ES you see this lower, kind of lower lows trend. Again, you see that in the NQ. Not so much the Russell. Yeah. And not so much. Yeah, actually it is. Just looks a little different. Especially the highs. Anyway, overnight, what was this level? 45,266. 226. Kind of nothing, except, well, actually it is. If we look at the daily, it's roughly multiple days open or close or high, but it's a rough area. I wouldn't have traded that really. Bounced a couple times off of yesterday's close and then zigzagged around it. Broke above what looks like pretty good volume, but was not able to maintain it and is now trying again. As you can see here, broke above. All right, gold. For gold, we have trended lower at the open. Danced around yesterday's opening range low. Didn't really respect it that much. Maybe a little bit. Once it... Yeah, I don't know what I would have done there. Because I might have done a short right here, only to have it recover. Came back down again. Could you really think it would continue this lower? I don't know. Gold can often go rogue. Stopped around in the overnight R1 pivot point at 35.89. Eventually recovered from there. Right through yesterday's low. Didn't really seem to care much about it. Came back for a pullback. And then very slowly has gone higher since then. So this is the first time in a while for gold. As you can see that we've had a lower low. We've had higher lows. One, two, three, four, 5 days in a row. Could that mean people are done pouring their money in? At least a pause? Yeah, I don't know. All right, oil. I did place a nice oil trade yesterday, which I'll go over that before I sign off. Oil trended down almost the whole night. Halted for a bit at yesterday's low. I wonder how if there was any clear signals it was going to fail. Maybe on the pullback here. But it didn't pull back to yesterday's low. Pulled back to this support area. I don't know if I would have done that trade. But it has trended lower ever since. We had a huge increase in volume around 4 a.m. I think that happened the other night too in oil. Let's take a look. That's around 5 a.m. increase. I think it was Tuesday. Around 3 a.m. huge increase. Again, I bet that's overseas markets in some way. Closing or opening or whatever. So yeah, it was the overnight before Tuesday morning. Right? 9-1. No. So I guess gold was open on Labor Day, or oil. Either way, you're seeing. You don't often see that in the equities. You're seeing increases in volume in the very early morning in oil. Is that government manipulation? I don't know. You have any idea what that is? I'd like to hear it. But a very clean bounce off of yesterday's low. I'm not sure I would have done that trade with that kind of volume coming in. Might have been good for a very quick scalp. But that's it. That's it for the overnight. Let's take a look at all the news coming in today. Every morning I write down the news events and I block out the time around them. It's not wise to scalp around that type of stuff, and I like scalping. And I just ended up blocking out most of the day. Because in 9:45, we have PMI, which, just a refresher on what that is, Purchasing Managers Index. Leading indicator gauging U.S. private business activity in the manufacturing and services sector. Yeah, I don't know if that'll have a huge effect. Then we have services PMI. So that's a global composite. I wonder if that's just U.S. companies with the majority of their business global. Yeah, I don't know. Services PMI, I guess that would be service sector. Tourism, I think, would fall in there. Financial services. So they claim that has a huge effect on Forex markets and probably regular markets. Historically been a large GDP contributor. Anyway, I block out that time. That's at 10, right? Yes. And then around noon, Fed blah, and then more Fed blah, 7 tonight. So this afternoon I'll be busy. That'd be about the only time I would trade today. So won't trade much today. Tomorrow we have average hourly earnings month over month and year over year, and then non-farm payrolls. I do know that is a huge one that the Fed looks at. If that comes in, I don't know which way they'll read it. If that comes in the way they want to read it, we might see an increase. How do I say it? We might see the probability of a larger cut go up. I don't think the Fed will cut 0.5 point. Right now, let's take a look at the Fed watch. So I think this was at 97.1 yesterday. Now it's at 97.6. And that's for a so we're right now at 425, 450 current target rate. So it's a range. So that would be 1/4 point. I wonder how you see, and also the CME lets you trade these as contracts, I'm pretty sure. The amount of products there are with futures and options on futures, and then other contracts, I don't think they qualify as futures, but they qualify as contracts of some sort. Heck, you can trade on whether it's going to rain tomorrow or not. That gets a little bit too close to gambling for me. I'm sure if I was a meteorologist and a trader, that would be a gold mine. Or maybe not. But, yeah, I don't know how to see here the probability of a larger cut. Usually if there is, they would show 3 bars here. Let me see if I can. Oh, it went down a bit. So that's a chance of them cutting in October. So right now, high chance of them cutting 1/4 point. October, the chance of them cutting, staying at 1/4 point is 44. Cutting another point is 54. But what are the chances of them cutting? So why does that highlight like that? Yeah, I don't know. In December. So the chances of them cutting another 1/4 point, right? Is that what that would be? So we go from 4.0 to 4.25. High chance. Higher chance of us going again to 3.75 to 4.0. Okay, so the December, the most likely chances that will hold, but it's growing. So you might see 3 cuts before the end of the year. Okay, so that's a graph of it. So 0. So that's why they don't show it, because it's 0% chance of them cutting half of a basis point. It'd be worth a $5 bet. And what the odds of that are. I think there are times that it happened in the past. Well, let's read this. Maybe we'll get a better understanding. America's monthly jobs report is considered the most important economic indicator for Forex traders. Released on the first Friday following the reported month, the change in the number of positions is closely correlated with the overall performance of the economy and is monitored by policymakers. Full employment is one of the Federal Reserve's mandates, and it considers developments in the labor market when setting its policies, thus impacting currencies. Despite several leading indicators shaping estimates, non-farm payrolls tend to surprise markets and trigger substantial volatility. Actual figures beating the consensus tend to be bullish US dollar. New jobs created. So, let's see if I can sort this out. It said initial jobless claims will continue in jobless claims. Which one did they say was bad for inflation? Yeah. Too much growth means inflation is crazy. But then for non-farm payrolls, this is just the way I think. I would think the Fed would like to see job creation up because their mandate is good job creation, low prices. So what is the basis for a cut if neither of those are met? But yet also high job growth means high inflation. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I should look into that more. I don't really see how that'll affect my trading since I don't trade news events. I'm just interested in everything. It's a curse of being human. What else we have on Friday? Not much. Just the overall unemployment rate. That comes before the open. 9:30 open, that is. So I will be blocking out that time. Let's see what we got next week. Monday, some European stuff. Well, that's Germany. Pretty sure that's Germany. Yeah. Yeah. Next week looks kind of PPI. I think this is another big one they look at. Increasing prices. I don't know if that's too late for them to consider it. I don't think so. I think they look at everything except for right before their meeting, which would be the following week, I think. I forget when it is. Let's look that up. 16th or 17th. I forget when the actual decision is. But next week, PPI, CPI. No, that's the one they look at, consumer, not PPI. Michigan consumer sentiment. That could be a big deal because many consumer staples right now are suffering. So it would be strange if this is way up and yet Heinz can't sell anything. Or what's another recent one that lost recently? Walmart, pretty sure. Because, I mean, who wants to go to Walmart? Nobody wants to go to Walmart. It's a chore. You're going to see something you wish you didn't see. You're going to get harassed by employees. It's almost like they're trying to keep you out of the stores. Let's see when the actual Fed decision is. 16th or the 17th. I'm pretty sure it's the 16th. No, I am wrong. 17th. But I think 16th some important stuff comes out, but I don't think they consider it because, I mean, it's a day before. They got to make all their excuses beforehand. All right, let's take a quick look at key levels. Market's about to open in 6 minutes. I'd like to eventually get this timing down right, so I'm done with this before the open. I'm not trading the open this morning because of all the news. I usually wait 10 minutes around 9:40, 9:45 to trade anyway, just in case there are large unexpected movements. All right, looking at the ES for the day. Again, of great importance is Friday's close and previous month's close. I think we might challenge that again. If we shoot through it, look at a pullback. If we keep going higher, look for resistance at current month high at 6,491-ish. If we bounce off of previous month's close, we got a lot to get through here. Yesterday's high, yesterday's close, yesterday's opening range high, yesterday's 9:30 open. Also a possibility we just bounce in between here. But with the news, anything goes. Below that, yesterday's low might get down there, depending on the news. All right, NQ. So that could be telling to the ES that the NQ is already above previous month's close. Could mean that it's just a matter of time till ES gets above it as well. Unless, of course, you see the NQ reject and fall below. But I'd be looking at yesterday's high. Again, let's kind of pretend like the afternoon, because I wouldn't trade any of the news. Maybe the Fed speech at noon won't matter. $12.05. But then again, he might blurt something about a cut or about being dovish about it. That could change things. So I wouldn't trade then. Might place a trade between 10 and 12. Not a bad idea, but anyway, if we jump above it, look for a pullback to this area. But then again, we also have current month high right here. Might not be a big deal for the NASDAQ. Going lower, again, we have yesterday's opening range high, yesterday's 9:30 open, and yesterday's opening range low to get through. Russell. Again, we have previous month's high. No, previous month's close, which also happens to be oh crap. Oops, I forgot to switch something. So it is also yesterday's high. So I would consider that a very important level for the Russell. Almost a given that if price gets up there, it'll bounce off of it. In fact, I should set an alarm, but I won't be around. I'll set an alarm anyway. What's the hurt? I'll do that after I sign on. Well, let me try it. It's been a while. Entering channel. Let's just do inside channel. $23.67 I'm going to do. No, I don't have to do that way. Crossing up. 23.67. Only once. All right. Price gets up there, it'll let me know. At the open, we just opened. Quick spike down. Again, the news coming out today in 15 minutes. Global Composite PMI. Not going to touch this. But if we do head lower, obviously we are approaching previous day's close right now. Below that, we have yesterday's opening range low at 23.49. Yesterday's 9:30 open. I bet you it stops right here. We'll see. Below that, we have yesterday's low right on top of a resistance area. So if you haven't been here before, which there's nobody here, and nobody was here before. There's no one here now. Anyway, this is a great indicator. Automatically plots support and resistance zones. It is called Volume Support Resistance Zones, version 2. I use it as confirmation. So you have previous day's low, and then you have this resistance zone. That adds strength to that low. Look at that. That would have been a good scalp. As I get more experience, I'm not against scalping at the open or scalping during news. It's just right now might not be a good idea. But that would have been some quick money right there. All right, MYM. The Dow. So we are far from last month's close with the Dow. I don't think we'll get up there today. But take a look for when price approaches yesterday's high at 45,377. We opened right at yesterday's close, which in the overnight we were bouncing around it. Going lower, we have yesterday's opening range low, which I tend to ignore once the open comes. I don't have it marked any further because the new opening range starts. But beyond that, again, we have yesterday's low in combination with a support area. So that confirms that low a bit. It'd be a good spot also because you could just put your stop below the current month low, or even this pivot point at 44,969. And then if it goes against you, price would have to cross and break through these two important resistance lines. All right, let's take a look at gold. Gold seeing a little positive movement at the open. If we go higher, yesterday's close might not mean much, but yesterday's high, I'd look for that because not only is that yesterday's high, but I'm pretty sure that's an all-time high. But like I said in the overnight review, this is the first time we're having a lower low. So the buying spree might be slowing down a bit with gold. Or we might have come down here for more buyers. Who knows? Well, you can kind of see it here in the RSI too. Quite a good dip. Yeah, I don't know. But that would be a great stopping point. Yesterday's high for a quick scalp. Going lower, if we go lower, price kind of respected yesterday's low. You just might have to keep your stops a bit wide. But you have yesterday's low, and then that is the R1 pivot point at 3589.3. So price did dance around there and respect it a little. Going even lower, kind of wide open. until you get to previous month's high at 35.33. Oil. I think I saw this yesterday. Oil has a lot of support and resistance lines in here. For a long time, you can see it in the daily. I think that's why you have so much support and resistance in this area's price. It was stuck in here for a couple weeks. Not moving much. Not heading in any real direction. So I would be weary of trading in here. You're going to get a lot of back and forth, buying and selling, until we get out of here. But going up higher, we have yesterday's low at 63.72. I should really get a label here on the right so I can give the exact amount, but heck, I'm already cluttered here. But this is also the spot in the overnight where there was a very clean hit, rejection. Above that we have last month's close, previous day's close. If we head lower through this mess, we have, is that the 100 SMA? Yes, it is. The 100 SMA from the daily chart, which, as you can see, I missed this. At 9:10, it hit that perfectly, right on the nose. Again, would have been a great trade. It also happens to be right at the bottom of all this mess. So if we head lower, I'd say look for a pullback to this level. Lower than that, we are unlikely to get there today. All right, let's take a look quick at the, I think I only did one trade yesterday. I'd like to increase that greatly, but pretty good winner. Right now trying to win back a bit of a losing streak. I went from being positive around $800 since April with just futures trading, just futures scalping. I only trade a couple micros. I'd like to increase that if this winning streak continues, if I continue to be profitable. I also have like a 68% win rate. My mental state tends to favor a higher win rate than large winners, which is a problem I should work on. Anyway, I recently got a pretty big loser. Went back down to $500 some dollars. I know that's not a lot since April, $500, woo. But again, if I would just increase times the contract number by 10, and it's still not a livable wage, but prove a couple other things, or times it by 20. Although I don't know how that many contracts could then affect your ability to enter and exit trades. I don't know, I gotta figure out a way to work on that. Anyway, at 11:15 a.m., I noticed price was stuck. At that time, it was that was the previous day's close. No, previous day's opening range high. Hold on. I forgot to put that on mute. Previous days. So that was yesterday's close, right? However they figure out the settlement for oil, I don't know. But yesterday that was considered near the previous day's low. That's what it was. No. Yeah, it was. So yesterday's low and Tuesday's low, pretty much the same place. Anyway, it looked like RSI was heading up and price action was showing that buyers were sort of in control. I noticed this large volume of sellers right here was unable to break it any lower. And of course you had this large key area of Friday's close and previous month's close. I figured it would break above it. In worst case scenario, I could keep my stop right below the previous day's low. I might have covered a little too quickly, but as you can see, price did break through before ultimately coming back down again, but that's not my concern. I knew it would have a hard time getting through here, so I placed my stop right at 64.31. Right around here. Right around 50 SMA. Which is this blue line. Anyway, I forget how much money it was, but it helped dig me back out of that hole. So my goal is to increase the amounts of trades I do, my speed of entry. I'm going to work on that today. I was thinking about doing it on stream, but nobody's watching, right? Yeah. Not a soul in sight. That's alright. Maybe one of these days I'll get around to promoting myself a little bit. I think that's it for today. As of now, again, we are up against it. Previous month's close again. And news just released. I'm assuming it was good. Good in quotation marks. It came in lower than what was projected. But I still believe that above 50 is growing. Anyway, happy trading. Be careful. And whatever you do, join my community one of these days.